everybody. Hey, hey, hey. Second time today I couldn't get my system started. So, just so you know, I was here ready for you at 4, but my computer was not. So we're sorting out what's going on with my computers. I was all proud of myself. I sat down at 4 on the nose and I was like, oh, we're going to start class on time today. And then I clicked the button and nope. Anyway, we're here. Thanks for joining, everybody. Welcome in. This is session 3. Can you believe? Of February. Tomorrow's session 4. So I want to kind of tell you how this month is working. February is a shorter month, and we started the second week. So we have 2 classes back to back, which I'm excited about. I love that. Today's class is different than tomorrow's class, so I want to give you some overview and some insight. I'm also, a lot of you have been with me this month so far, but if you're brand new, the main difference you might notice is I'm really focusing on the camera until the end of class. So I will be, I will tell you, I will be looking at the feed periodically and addressing questions that are important. But this was feedback from students in the group, and our last class for 90% of people was really a positive experience. People said they felt like because I was more here and not looking to the feed, that they were able to focus more too. So I hope you're enjoying it, and there will be plenty of time for questions. And then tomorrow, so thank you for that. Tomorrow, let me explain what's happening. So I've been doing coaching every month where you ask a question and I answer it in an audio. I've been doing that for the last, I don't know, however long it's been, right? Over a year. But what it has kind of evolved. In the beginning, it was questions about class, and it's become like more questions about the meaning of life. And so the recordings are getting longer and longer and longer because I'll have one question, which is, do you believe in aliens? And the next question is, how do I make money from crystals? And the next question is, should I forgive my mom who abused me? And the next question is, am I from the Syrian star system? And so I find myself, like, I'm trying to do justice to all these questions, but they're big questions. And so it takes me a lot of time, and some people don't have time to listen to such an extended remix of a recording. So what we're going to try to do, if it's possible, is ask for you to make your coaching questions more related to alchemy and to class, like the ones that you submit each month. And then session 4, the crafting session and the experience session, because we're not crafting every month. Some months we are, some months we're more experiencing. That is going to be a Q&A where you can ask all the big questions, and I'll get to as many as I can. So tomorrow, the second half of class, the first half of class, we're going to talk about fire element, and we're going to talk about how to read the flame, and it's going to be kind of sexy. We're going to talk about fire magic, which is a huge subject of interest to me. It's something I do in my own practice, so it'll be fun to bring that to you. And since we're in the calcination phase of alchemy, it's so important because remember, this phase of alchemy, calcination, comes from the same root word as calcium, which comes from the root word of bone, right? So this month is about burning down everything that isn't authentic to who and what you are at your core. So fire magic's important for that. But the second half of class is going to be all Q&A. Anything you want to ask me, and I'm going to give you my big answers. And then the coaching each month, we're going to try to guide you to ask more questions that are related to the content, so that it kind of holds together a little bit better, and it's not Athena trying to answer all the questions of the universe. Because I'm smart, but I don't know everything. And I do my best, but it's probably not as comprehensive just because I'm one person. So hopefully that resonates with you and that will work for you as well. So what I'm going to say is, if you've got big questions, bring them tomorrow. Tonight's journey, tomorrow's big questions. So I just want to prepare you for that. Tomorrow's candle magic and big questions, tonight's journey. So what are we doing tonight with our tools? Uh-oh. Hey Alexis, will you, let's see if I can fix this myself. I thought Dave fixed everything, but the camera Will you please ping Dave for me, Alexis, and let him know that the camera from my altar is not working. I would love it to work, but it's not. Will you let him know for me, and then Nick can come in and fix that, because I do need to be able to show you guys the tools. We're going to be perfuming tonight. Okay, good. I'm glad that resonates with you. So I'm going to drum a little bit for you tonight. I'm going to do a little sound bath for you tonight. Is that okay? We only have so long in the lower chakras before we move on in our alchemy. What's a ping? Like a text or a call. Yeah, I know. Well, but I wanted to be able to like show you the altar. There, you can kind of see it in the screen. That's the camera that points at my altar. So we're going to try to get that online for you if we can. I don't know. But anyway, today's journey. So let me explain what today is all about. I'm going to show you the tools since I can't flip my camera, but hopefully we'll fix that. You ready to drum? Would you like some drumming? I have my amazing drum that last year's Soul Shift class gifted to me at the end of the year, and honestly it's my favorite drum. It's just the best drum. I was just playing this drum myself alone a couple nights ago, and it's just like, I mean, it's so grounding and so healing. So we'll do that. Okay, thanks Alexis, I appreciate it. So in your tools this month you had this. We are working with this tonight. This is people call this by different names. Some people call it a ceremonial knife. Some people call it an athame. Some people pronounce athame or athame. I've heard it every way from very seasoned practitioners. I call it an athame. So it just depends on what you call it. Do you love it? So this is the tool you need tonight for your journey. If you don't have this, I would recommend that you get a single terminated wand, or that you would get another kind of ceremonial knife in your collection. Maybe you have a different athame, or you might have we had labradorite ones before. We had lapis ones before years ago, right? We had selenite ones before. Chickadee check. Beverly's got it. What's under the gold? Yes. So it is all smoky. So I had an option when we were designing this kit. I could leave it all smoky, or I could have them dip it in gold. The whole thing is smoky quartz. And I chose to dip it because alchemy. You know, gold was so important to the alchemists because they thought that gold was the goal, right, of all of their pursuits, was to transform tin to gold and mercury to gold and lead to gold. They wanted to transform everything into gold. So I thought, in this year when we're doing alchemy, it's kind of cool to have a tool that has a golden handle. So Colin's got an obsidian athame. I think that's beautiful. The gold's fun, right? You say athame. Athame? Okay, I like it. Whatever you call it, it's a great tool to have. So what are we doing tonight? Well, we're shaving tonight. Can I shave you? We're going to talk about cords, energetic cords tonight, and we're going to do ceremony tonight with this. If you don't have any tools at all tonight, I'm going to ask you to use your hands. Because, and the Merlinite wand is great from Jen. Selenite stick is okay. Hands are okay. Anybody who tells you can't do all of your magic with just what God gave you when you came into this world is not telling you the truth. Tools are great. They're very fun. They're very pretty. Hey, how do we turn that on?
Just pass the mouse.
The mouse? Okay.
I'm just running it over here.
I have tech support on the
So
on the
which
line.
camera is it? The one pointing out the crystals? Okay. It's working.
Oh, how do I do that here?
Oh, so the thing isn't working. So, is what you're talking about? Okay, now try it.
Okay.
Okay. It's because you're already on it. Let me switch it different one.
Okay. Okay. Split screen? No. I
Oh,
have no
hang
split.
on. Let me fix that then too.
Okay.
Sony.
Everybody saying hi to you.
Hi.
They're all impressed because you're so good.
Just try it again.
Okay. Ready?
Oh, so they're all not working.
Okay, now it's all broken.
Oh, okay, that's awesome. So they're just all not working anymore.
No, there I am.
So try them now.
It worked. Okay, I'm not gonna touch anything because I
don't touch it.
Okay,
Just literally don't
okay,
touch it.
Okay,
Just...
don't even talk to me.
Oh, geez, now they're not working.
Shit.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I think they should be good now.
I'm so proud. Thank you, Nick. He's really good. Anyway, it's true. He's very good. He's a total tech wizard. That kid puts computers together. He builds computers for fun. His favorite thing is to order all the components and try to build a computer from nothing. Like, he's so smart. And it's not because Dave pressures him. Like, that's genuinely what he does for fun. I know. Isn't his voice really deep? I know. He's such a love. My Nick is pretty amazing. Okay. Anyway, what I was saying earlier is anybody who tells you you can't work magic until you have tools is not telling you the truth. All magic can be worked with just what God gave you. So if you have an Alchemize, if you have a perfume, if you have a candle, like, that's just a party bonus. It's not... It's always an addendum. It's an ally. It's a supplement, but it's not the magic, right? So it's fun. I mean, I love it too. I do. I like things. I like pretty things. I like magical things. But, in a pinch, if I'm on the road, I can, work with what my mama gave me. He did jump the crystal. I know he's turning 14 in a couple of weeks. Isn't that nuts? It goes by so fast. And Zoe's turning 12, and you wouldn't even recognize Zoe. She's almost as tall as I am, and her feet are bigger than mine. It's like, what happened to my babies? Quarantine has seen them really grow, which is beautiful. So I wanted to show you what the tools are that we're working with tonight. So if you've got your Alchemy, we're going to work with that. If you've got an incense burner of any kind, I would love for you to get some charcoal going, so that we can burn our charcoal or our incense together. And then tomorrow night we're working with this tool. I'm going to light mine tonight just for the scent of it, but we're not really working with the flame until tomorrow. And then tonight we're also blending our perfume, if you would like, which is the Journey kit. This is the Journey to Authenticity tonight. And the oils we're working with are White Lotus, which is in the little tiny bottle because it's ridiculously expensive. All of the oils in the Journey kits are authentic, they're real. And White Lotus Absolute is thousands of dollars. It's very, very expensive. It's pure White Lotus. So we gave you a half dram so that we didn't have to raise the price of the kit. And then you got vetiver, which is, gosh, I can't wait to tell you about vetiver. I'm growing vetiver in my courtyard. It's one of my favorite things on the planet. The only problem is, if I ever want to harvest it, I have to kill the plant. So that's why I haven't harvested my vetiver yet. Oops, knocked that right out of the park. And then clary sage. Clary sage is good for so many things. Clary sage is good for hormone balance. It's good for acne, especially cystic acne. People really struggle with cystic acne, and clary sage is one of the best home remedies for that. And so you can kind of design your blend, and then we have our jojoba carrier oil in your bottle, and a little label if you want to label your blend. So we're gonna make our perfume tonight. I have a couple of things to teach you about and some concepts to, introduce you to, and then we're gonna journey tonight. I know, isn't White Lotus beautiful? And I have to tell you, so I love the combination, but you're gonna have to figure out your alchemy. because everybody's going to appreciate a different blend of the white lotus and a different amount of the vetiver and a different amount of clary sage, and it's really going to depend on what you like. White lotus substitutes: gardenia, tuberose, real good stuff. Some white rose would be a great substitute. Rose in general would be a halfway decent substitute. White rose is different. Other white florals, right? Jasmine, a nice sambac or grandiflorum would be good as a substitute for white lotus. Big white flowers. Magnolia Absolute, which we have. Champaka Absolute. If you have any of those from us in the past, that would be a pretty decent substitute for tonight, because those will all harmonize really beautifully with the vetiver. Yeah. Did I get you hooked on it? I like that. Okay, so I want to go back and just review with you a little bit before we get started. While you take a nice deep breath. So this month, our focus is what we call the cauldron of creation, right? This is, and I want to talk about that concept for a second. It's nice. I don't know how you feel, but this year in Soul Shift, session 1 is like the really heavy duty intellectual worksheets, alchemy content, right? And then session 2 is Crystal Masters. So that gets us more into working specifically with the crystals. And we worked with our shungite plate last week in session 2. Session 3 brings us back so that we can begin to reflect upon some of those themes and revisit them. And then session 4 is about bringing it all back together and integrating and reflecting and crafting. And yeah. I have an accent? Really? Melissa says she hears an accent from me tonight. I don't know. I haven't traveled. I don't sense it, but that's interesting. Yeah, all the perfuming kits have shipped, so if you didn't get yours yet, I'm not exactly sure, but it is, probably somewhere with USPS on its way to you. So what I will tell you about tonight, and one of the things I like to do before I perfume is I like to clear the bottle. And this is just something that you can consider as part of your practice and part of your crafting. So, but whenever you have an empty bottle, take your stopper out, light an incense stick, and put the incense stick, especially copal, because copal, since is a cleanser and a purifier. But do you see what it does? It is, and it doesn't take long. The whole bottle is full of smoke. Do you see it? It's such a cool way to prep your bottle to receive sacrament, which is what this is, right? Sacred medicine. So I really want to encourage you to always cleanse your bottles. It will take about 5 minutes for all that beautiful smoke to come out of there. It's still full of smoke. But it's just a nice way of cleansing and preparing. Isn't that cool? Your bottle. And a little bit for you too. I feel like a fairy godmother with my wand. I know. Isn't that cool? I can bring it around you too. Okay, so to get you started thinking about tonight, and session 3 is underway. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of our incense of the month. This is your self incense, which is all about your authentic journey. So get just a little bit of that cooking on there and wave that your way. I've got the AC on in here, so it's blowing the smoke toward the window. It was really hot today. It was like 80 degrees in LA today. Like really hot today. So for this time of year, 80 is, it's warm for us. So a little bit of AC on. Your bottle should have been about 2/3 of the way full, and then your half tram should have been all the way full. Yeah, for your essential oils. So what I want you thinking about for today and for tonight is this. Ready? As we go through our lives, we accumulate stuff, don't we? Right? We accumulate names and nicknames. We accumulate titles. titles and degrees. We go from Ms. to Mrs. I never changed my name, so I kind of bypassed that in my own life. And it's it's kind of a longer story, but I absolutely resisted changing my name when I got married to Dave. And it wasn't Dave. It was just when I was very young. This might crack you up in a way. I remember being maybe in high school when we really started to talk about what happens when a woman gets married and she changes her name, and why people did that. And then I was in college, and they taught us that my freshman year in college, I'll never forget, they taught us about being property, right? That when a woman gets married, she takes her husband's name because technically she becomes like property. And there was something in me, it must be because I'm Minoan, like I come from this super ancient matriarchy where like my ancestors would have been like, oh, hell no. Wait, what? Yeah, wait a minute. I'm going to marry you and then I'm going to become something that what? No, right? So anyway, I just, it never was on the table for me. So it's funny that we're talking about this, right? But I never became a Mrs. I'm still a Ms. Or I am a doctor, so I mostly go by that. But my broader point is to you, and I don't want you to feel judged if you changed your name, right? These days, people don't change their name. When I'm out and about, people still assume that Paracas is my married name, and it's just like, no, we shouldn't make those assumptions, right? Plus, I had an added incentive because my dad didn't have any biological sons, and neither did my uncle, and neither did any of my other uncle or my three other aunts. They did not have sons. They all had daughters. Can you believe it? The whole Paracas line. So I was the one who stood up and said, if I can have a son and if I can pass my name to that man, then the name doesn't die. So I was very blessed to find a partner in Dave who actually agreed to this. So my kids' last names are Paracas. I don't know if a lot of you know that. There's a lot of men in my husband's family, so the name is not going to die out. They're all boys. There's very few girls. In my family, it was all girls. So Nick, my son is Nick Paracas after my dad, and Zoe is Zoe Paracas, and my hope is that Nick will carry on the line. But I'm mentioning this to you because if you did take someone else's name, that's with you now, right? That's part of your satchel, right? Like, okay, I'm this person's daughter, I'm that person's sister, I'm this person's teacher, I'm that person's friend, I'm this person's mother, you know what I mean? Now I'm this person's wife, and oh, my name changed. No, it's not hyphenated. My kids are Paracas. It was really sweet to tell my dad because, Dave loves my dad too, and my dad loves Dave. And it was really cool to tell my dad, guess what? Your grandson's name is Nick Paracas. He was like, really? And we were like, yeah. And what's really cool is my dad misspelled his name when he came to the United States, and my son's name and my name are also misspelled. We actually took the misspelling. There's only supposed to be one R, but my dad got really nervous when he came to the US and he didn't know English. And he was I've told you this story before, but he was trying to use the typewriter, and my dad, if you've met my dad, he is he's the sweetest, kindest, gentle Cancer you've ever met, and he gets very nervous. And so he was trying to type his name and not take too much time, and he hit the R twice, and then he was too embarrassed to tell the person that it was misspelled, so he just let it go. So now all future generations, like my two uncles are both Paracas with one R, and then in Greece you don't keep the S if you're a woman, you drop it. So all of my aunts are Paraki with one R and no S. So anyway, we are Paracuses with 2 R's. It sounds like Perakis, but it's really not. Um, anyway, you have identities attached to you, don't you? You have your maybe you have your maiden name, or maybe you never changed your name, or maybe you never got married, so you don't have to worry about a married name, which makes this all a lot easier. Maybe you when you graduated from college, or maybe you graduated from design school, or you got these little funny you became a certified crystal healer, or you finished our program, right? And so now you've got these like certificates and these titles, and it's like, but are you that? Is that all you are? Are you just mom, or are you just crystal healer, or are you just are you that and everything else that you are, right? I like to give myself other titles too, like rebel, and I don't know, troublemaker, and liberator of the soul, and other titles that I like to think I've given myself over the years too, right? Isn't it interesting? And I love your stories too about how your identities have shifted over time. So part of it is these identities that we gather intentionally. Part of it is identities that we gather over time. And even like my first name is a big, heavy first name to carry around. It took me coming into my adult years to really love being named Athena, because people just made assumptions, that I was smart, or that, and what if I didn't want to be smart all the time? What if I didn't want to know everything? What if I didn't want to be, like, well, you must know because you're named after the goddess of wisdom, right? Like, we don't really think about these names that are attached to us. My soul knows Athena, but it knows a lot of other names too. And now I'm going to say this, right? I also really believe that naming is not that important. In fact, tonight I want you to play with no name. I love it. Anna Maria says, I'm just me, right? And Nitu said, I'm just Nitu, right? I want you to play with no name tonight. And I'll tell you something that scares a lot of people. Because if they're not mom, if they're not dad, if they're not brother, if they're not son, if they're not wife, if they're not worker, if they're not doctor, if they're not, man, you tell people that and they don't know who they are, right? It can create something of a identity crisis. But I will tell you, there's some real medicine in asking yourself, who are you without all the stickers? Like, hi, my name is. Who are you without all of that, right? I am, yo soy. You are. You just are, right? Does this scare you too? Yafa, I see you. So, but listen, think about how many times you have lived and died by other names. Where you would go, Athena, what's that? Or Yafa, what's that? Or like you would just be like, what? Like, what? So tonight, right, Tina? And I love the big caps, I am. Tonight I want you to play with this. And why am I asking you to play with this during the calcination phase? And why are we doing this work tonight? Because this is our journey. Our journey is to discover who you are underneath all this stuff. What if there's part of you that isn't resting in any of that, doesn't need it, isn't tickled by it, doesn't find their worth in that, right? It's true. And Julie said when she lost her job of 13 years, she felt like she lost a part of her identity. Have you ever been fired from a job before? I have. Not a lot of times, but I sure have. God, you feel lost, don't you? Wait, I don't work there anymore? Like, what do I do if I don't work there, right? If I'm not an employee? A lot of people struggled with that this year during the pandemic, right? Who are you at your core? If you just, like Jimmy Quinlan said, if you're just the I am, what is the I am? What do you fill in after that? Complete? Right? Loved? My favorite title is intended. intended. I'm intended. I'm intended. Someone wanted me here. They might be questioning that decision. Somebody wanted me here. And somebody wanted you here too. Does it feel like a divorce, Karina? It's interesting, right? When you lose a job. And yet, most of the times when we get fired, every time I got fired, I've only been fired twice, but every time I got fired, it's because the universe was like, oh, and picked me up and literally dropped me somewhere else. Did that happen to you too? Like, I thought I was in the right place doing the right thing, and the universe was like, you know? It's interesting. So you are intended. So we're going to talk a little bit about energetic cords tonight, and we're going to talk about how to cut through those labels and those identities tonight. Now, I want to start with energetic cords. Cording is a rich subject. And like I said, I'll make more space for questions at the end. I'm going to try to just focus here with you for right now. So if I miss a comment in the feed, but you want to ask me a question at the end, I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. And you're also invited sometimes to not watch the feed if it distracts you. You know what I mean? This is your class. So if you want to just turn that feed off, you totally can, and just kind of be here now. You might find that you get more out of the experience. You can rejoin the feed when we come back to a discussion at the end. Chords. This is my theory on chords. It might not be the same as your theory on chords, because what I've learned is everybody's got a theory on chords, and we can't all be right. So it's really possible that I'm wrong, and you may have a theory on chording that is more, I don't know, accurate or comprehensive or aligned. But my theory on chords is this. Every time we interact with another person, even just you interacting, being here in class, we chord to each other. Okay? It's instantaneous. It is almost impossible to avoid. And I've seen it energetically in medicine journey before, and it's pretty awesome. I've had the actual experience. I had an experience once in an ayahuasca journey where we were in a big group, and I had gotten up. I just felt the need to walk around, and the shaman who was leading us through it had wanted to work with me privately, so was kind of summoning me upstairs to work with her. And this was one of my first journeys. And as soon as in medicine space, as soon as I got up, I'll never forget, to walk with her and follow her, I saw coming out of my solar plexus it was like an umbilical cord. And it tracked her to her umbilicus, right? It tracked her to her solar plexus. And I saw the cord connect. And I remember thinking to myself, because we were, and I think every time we do different work with each other, we establish a new cord. You know, like if you have a friend and you're friends, you've got a friendship cord, but say that friend now is going to be your therapist, right? Like your roles change, and so the cording changes. It's very interesting. So I believe we are all corded here together. Now there are different kinds of cords. Again, based on my experience and what I've seen. If it doesn't resonate with you, and I'll always tell you this, you got to take what I tell you lightly, just because it's only my experience, right? But it's, it's a long time of experience, so there's something to it, but you may have a different experience of what it's like to be in an energetic relationship with people. But this has been my visualization of this. So there are different kinds of cords. Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? So the cord you have with your mother is the biggest, thickest, hardest, oldest cord in your life, because it actually begins as the umbilicus. And then of course the planet itself has an umbilicus, right? It has an umbilical cord to which we are all corded. So we come from the mother, and then we each have a mother, and we cord to her, right? So the mother cord is the first cord you ever received. It is a very strong cord. It is very difficult to break, although I have seen people cut their maternal cord. and I'll talk about cord cutting in a second. It's an old, thick, dense cord. It's a big cord. It's like the mother bread. The father cord is the second biggest, oldest, densest cord you form. Because that is your double helix. That's your DNA, right? So even if you never met your father, even if you never met your biological mother, you have a cord to them. If you're adopted, your next biggest cords, in my experience, are to your adoptive parents. Let me come back to all the wounding questions, because I have a lot to say on this, and I hope this is interesting for you. Your next biggest cords, if you're adopted, are to your adoptive parents. Now, that's not going to surprise you. 7-Up break. And I have to tell you, it's flat 7-Up. I was trying to be really organized today, and I knew it was a busy day. So I poured my 7-Up for tonight's class this morning. I don't know what I was thinking. And it's like just pure syrup. So if you see me drinking that, it's because I'm absolutely desperate. But it tastes like shit. Just so you know. Okay, so the adoptive cords are there, and they're very strong in cases where a child is born and then is adopted to a secondary set of parents. In a lot of cases, the adoptive cords are just as old, powerful, strong conduits of energy as the original primary maternal and paternal cords. Okay. I don't know why you needed to know that, but I just want to share that with you. Yeah, and step parents too, right? Listen, Alexis, I don't know. I don't always make the best life choices. It seemed like a great idea. Like, yeah, let's get really organized to get your Diet 7-Up in the room early today. Okay, cord you please. In any case, so step parents, like Bonnie was saying, are going to be really thick again. Thick, deep, old cords, harder to cut, harder to narrow, harder to sever, harder to... They're established, right? When you've been with somebody, like I've been with Dave since Dave and I met in 2000. So Dave and I have been together for, and then we were never apart. So we've been together for almost 21 years, pretty much 21 years. That's an old cord. I mean, I'm 47, right? So it's like almost half my life, and he's 41. So it's literally half his life. So, it's a big old cord. Now, what does a big, thick, dense cord mean? It is a strong contractual relationship, okay? It's different than somebody you meet once and have sex with them and never see them again. It's different than, it's not different than having children, right? Because you have your child and now there's cords, and in theory you're going to know your children for a long time, and so you have a cord to your children. Then I've got cords to all of you. You've got cords to me. You've got cords to each other. I have cords to a lot of people. You can think about my job, right? But even those are different. My cord to you is not the same as somebody who just joins one of my videos in an afternoon because they just happen to be scrolling on Facebook and found me, right? Are they both cords? Yeah, they are. But a relational cord is entirely different. It allows you to connect energetically to someone in a really different way, okay? So all of these are different, and you can feel the difference. The longer you know someone, the more intimacy there is. As soon as you have intercourse with someone, your cord shifts, right? And it becomes more indelible, right? It's more of a permanent imprinting of the energy. Sex changes the cord, strengthens the cord, widens the cord, deepens the cord, right? All those things happen. So it is very special. It is unique. It's not like everything else, People will say to me sometimes like, well, I'm in your class, but am I just like everybody else that's out there? And it's like, no, I don't cord the same way. Like here in this container where I'm actually holding a circle for you to keep you safe during ceremony and to hold the space for you to transform your life and shift your consciousness. No, that's not the same as somebody who says hi to me on the street because they, saw my website or whatever, right? And the same is true with you. Somebody that you share your intimate secrets with and know a lot about you and your life and your family and what matters to you is different than somebody you meet at Trader Joe's in the checkout line who seems really nice, but you'll probably never see him again, right? These are all different things. So once a cord is cut, yes, I'm going to tell you the story, and I'm going to tell you that one more time. You are so welcome to have a different experience and a different view and a different perspective. But my perspective on this subject is pretty firm, meaning there's so much smoke. I've tested this theory. I have tried different things, and this is just where I'm at with cord cutting. Okay? I had a really bad experience. And afterward, my spirit guides were like, it wasn't good. I don't feel like spirit guides punish us, but I definitely sometimes have been, what's the word? Checked. They have a way of expressing, at least to me, like I should have known, or why did you do that, or we were guiding you against that. Like there's a little bit of like, I don't know. It almost feels like when you disappoint your parent. I've had that before. I went to someone to have a cord cut, and then I cut the cord. Yeah, a little bit of that. A little bit chastised, corrected. That's right. Just sort of like, next time don't do that. It's kind of that kind of thing from my guides, okay? Wish you didn't. That's right. Which is great. I learned that way. I went to have a cord cut. I let the woman cut the cord. I told her I wasn't comfortable. She insisted it needed to be cut. I let her cut it, so it's my own fault. I could have said no. I paid her to cut it. And then afterward, it was like, oof. I mean, I instantly felt, and because I wasn't done with the karma of that relationship yet. And once you cut a cord, once you've cut a cord, at least for me, you can reestablish it, but it's never exactly the same. A cord is very precious in my experience. Interesting. Well, I'm glad to hear that, Jimmy. It's an interesting thing, right? I mean, I agree with you. We all go through these processes and these choices and make choices and kind of learn from them and see what's right for us, you know? But in any case, that's been my experience, is like, oof, I still had work to do there. And sometimes when we want to cut a cord, it's because we just want it to stop. You know, like, make that person go away, get that energy out. And I'm telling you, within 10 minutes of her going, and it's cut, I was like, I literally felt it. And I wasn't young. I mean, I was in my mid-20s when I did that. And I wish that I had not. So, in any case, I don't cut cords because of that. I've never, ever cut a cord again since that. But that does not mean that I just welcome all energies and all cords as they are. So I believe that you can narrow a cord. So you can take a big dense cord. Now, the parental cords are hard to narrow. They're hard to narrow. The easiest cords to narrow, ex-partners, right? Friends, colleagues, co-workers, even your kids are easier to narrow those cords than your own parents. And I'm mindful of that with my own kids, because I realize their cord to me is going to be hard to cut. So I walk so tenderly in my relationship with my kids, because I never want them to feel like I'm somebody they want to, because it'll be very hard for them, right? So I narrow them, I thin them out, I shape them a little bit, I tighten them up a little bit, and you can feel it. You can feel it. And sometimes when I narrow a cord, I lose weight. A lot of you have asked me, like, are there different techniques? Can energy actually show up in your body as physical weight? You betcha. And sometimes if you've got a bunch of cords that are just, think about it. Really think about this for a second. This is so important for your calcination, because we're burning shit down, right? I'm not getting to all of your questions right now, but I will save time at the end for this because it's so absolutely critical, and I want to make sure. And tomorrow night we will continue the Q&A. So if I don't get to your question tonight, I will make space for it tomorrow. Half of our class tomorrow is going to be Q&A about all this, so think about it, okay? How many cords do you have? Really think about it. Right? Before the pandemic, I used to think to myself, I've got kids in school and I'm mentoring all their friends, right? And I'm working with the teachers. And then I go to Sage Goddess and I've got my employees there. And then I go online and I've got everybody in our Sage Goddess community here. And then I come home and I've got Dave and I've got my own kids and I've got my own parents and then I've got my, 2 or 3 in-person live friends outside of social media life that I'm close to. Like, we're talking a lot of cords. And there are times literally at night where I'm just like, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Okay? Everybody's got to go home. I'm not, right? Do you ever feel it? It's just like all the energy going out. There are 2 types of people in this world, in my opinion. Okay? And you got to figure out what kind you are, because this is the first step. And then you got to figure out what the people you love are. Okay? There are batteries and there are drains. There's only 2 types of people. There's people who bring you energy and there's people who take energy away. Okay? And I don't like to make extreme statements. Your health will improve, your weight will drop, your skin will clear, your allergies will reconcile themselves if you make sure that at least 50% of the people in your life are batteries. They can't all be drains. They can't all be people who are plugging into you going, oh, I got a live one. I'm going to take all her mojo, right? And so you got people who are like, ooh, look, I like her. Look, I'm going to take all that. Let me plug into that. And I plug down there. And ooh, she's not looking up there. I'm going to plug in there. And ooh, I got a backside over here. I'm going to plug into her behind, right? And if whether it's at work or it's at home or whatever, there are batteries and there are drains. And what I will tell you as a coach is you got to make sure at least 50% of people in your life have to be batteries. They've got to bring something to the table. If the other half are going to be drains, you got to find some batteries. And batteries come in all different forms. How do you know if you've got a battery? A battery, right? A battery is somebody who doesn't want to deplete you. They're not just there to siphon off or get something from you. They're actually there to encourage you, to support you, to uplift you. They don't need anything in return. They're just there. And they're there with some pretty selfless intentions, right? There are a lot of people, especially if you shine your light really bright in this world, who will be like, right, they can't wait to get their little sucker in there. Okay, so I want you to think tonight as we're going through this journey, it does not mean you have to cut cords. It doesn't mean you have to remove the drain people. It just means you need to be aware. And I will tell you, at almost 50 years old, I've got plenty of drains in my life, and I know who they are, and I think they know who they are. And I'm not talking about you guys, okay? I'm talking about more like in IRL one-to-one interactions. I think they know who they are. I minimize those interactions as much as I possibly can. I know where the drains are, and I know what it does to my energy field. And so I have to maintain some of those relationships, but I mind my energy like you would not believe. I zip up my chakras, I cover my solar plexus, I shield and bubble up, I do all kinds of energetic techniques to make sure that when I'm spending time with those people, they can't just plug in and tune out, right? Because they're filling up their tank at my expense. Now you could say, well, aren't we just all energy, and don't we have an infinite supply of energy, and so people can take as much as they want and it doesn't matter? In my experience, it does have an effect on you. Energy's infinite, and yet you're human, right? I mean, if I refuse to let you sleep for 3 days, would you be tired? I think you'd be exhausted, right? So you could say, well, energy is infinite. I don't ever have to sleep, and I don't need any food, and more power to you if you're able to do that. But I'm still pretty human in the sense that I need to eat, I have to bathe myself, I have to sleep, like I have basic needs, and I get tired when my energy runs dry, right? So it's really important. This is really a lesson on energetic boundaries, but we're focusing on courting tonight because I think it's kind of like where the rubber hits the road. And if you start to recognize, truly, if you start to recognize how people are interacting with you, and you know it, I don't have to teach you this. If I asked you to sit down right now, if I was in the room with you and I gave you a piece of paper and I drew a line down the middle and I wrote drains and batteries, it would not take you more than 5 minutes to give me a complete, almost alphabetized list of who those people are. Am I right? I mean, you'd be like, you know who they are. So it's more about figuring out how you're going to continue to operate in a way that is protective of your energetic boundaries and your needs and your priorities, right? Because it's very important. As parents, we don't have as much control over this with our kids because our kids, when they're young, are drains, and it's not because they mean to be. It's because they're literally relying on us to survive, and that's a different kind of drain, and it's actually an energizing drain. Kids are hybrid battery drains because their life force is so strong that they bring that energy and they keep us sustained and alive and going, but at the same time they are absolutely draining out the other half. I nursed my kids until each one was 2 years old, so they were literally draining me while they were energetically draining me, right? And so CT's saying, I feel like I have no batteries in my life. So when that happens, what you need to do is, first of all, set an intention to attract batteries. I did that a few years ago. I've got such good batteries in my life, I have to tell you, I really do. And I actually have a couple batteries in my life, people who I can call and say, you know what, can I just plug in? I won't drain you completely. And sometimes they call me and go, can I just plug in? Can I just like sit next to you and kind of energetically? It's not even a conversation. It's just, can I pull up my card up next to yours and kind of hook on? Because sometimes we need it from each other because we know we're batteries to each other. And I know I can give them a certain amount without depleting my own resource, because later on, when I need it, I'm going to be able to go to them and say the same thing. And it becomes this kind of unspoken, yeah. So how do you tell if someone's a battery or a drain? Honestly, it's intuitive. When you're around them, do you feel like you have more energy or less? When you get off the phone with somebody. Some people I dread getting on the phone with. It's like, ugh. Because I just know at the end of that conversation, there's just going to be nothing left of me if I let it, Versus some people, I'm like, how's it going? It's not that it's all good news, but it's like they know how to hold their energy, so they're not expecting me to fix it, change it, solve it, transmute it. They're not expecting me to do the thing, right? I am kind of a battery for all of you, consciously, but I have enough to give you, and I offer myself that way. Now, I mean, you got to be respectful, but I also have really good boundaries. So there's only so far in you can get, right? But I definitely offer my car up for you to pull up alongside it and go beep, beep, plug your little thing in there and take what you need. And there are times too where I come to you guys and I'm like, I could use a little boost today, right? And that's okay. So when people come into our Facebook group and they're like, please just hold me, please just see me today, I'm okay with that, because I feel like we can be a battery for each other sometimes, because that person may come back 2 weeks from now and go, you know what, I've got extra energy to give. I'd like to offer something back. And there's a yin yang, there's a balance, right? But the true, so a true battery with good boundaries can't really be drained. You only feel drained when you don't have good boundaries around that battery. And you got to protect your battery. You got one battery, right? And you have to learn what it feels like when you got suckerfish and barnacles and real old dead stuff that needs to be plucked off, right? And you've got to be able to call that and figure out how to do that too. So yeah, and I am a manifesting generator in human design. So I am a little bit of an Energizer bunny myself anyway. And I tend to attract other manifesting generators. So that's probably part of it too. Okay. Do you have any, let me pause here. Do you have any questions about, big questions about chords that I can answer before we move into this part? Maybe just one or two questions. I just want to make sure this was all clear. And if you have big questions before we move forward, I would love to answer them. Yeah. Yeah, some people pretend like they're batteries, but they're really drains. That doesn't last for very long because the truth will be revealed. Right? So how do you protect your energy? There's different ways. Pan protection is good. That's kind of my cosmic boundary. And we did a little bonus class on that. So if you guys didn't see that, Alexis can connect you with that one. How can you lovingly shield up around drains? And then we're going to thin cords tonight, Shay, so I'm going to show you how to do that. Can you help people change into more of a battery? Sometimes by bringing them to awareness. I've had conversations with people where I've just been like, you legit when I'm around you? Because I've had people say to me like, I really want to be more of a friend to you and I'd like to spend more time with you. And I'm pretty honest. And I've said to people, I would love that too. Whenever I'm around you, I feel like I want to go to sleep afterward. Like, I'm sorry. I think you're a really wonderful person. But if I spend more than an hour with you, I have to lay down. And so I can't maintain that. And so I either have to boundary up around you and limit the time with you, or you've got to sort this out and do it a little different, because the way you're coming at it right now, I can't be in a really clear, open, mutual relationship with you because it's not mutual. Sometimes people just want to learn. And then when I have said that to people, kind of tough love, people have said like, oh, but tell me more. I don't want to do that. I know I do that. Oh my God, I know I do that. Help me not do that anymore, right? And then there can be some learning, right? It's true. Energetic barnacles or, crusties or whatever you want to call them, right? Parents can be drains. And so the most important thing to do is to recognize that. Because that parental cord is, again, so big, so thick, so old. Because it goes back generations, right? Because that cord links you to your mother, and then to her mother, and then to her mother, and then to her mother behind her. And so now you've got this God, it looks like I don't know. You practically need Roto-Rooter, right? To kind of sort some of that stuff out when it comes to the mother line. Okay, so how do you shield up your energy? Let's talk about that for 2 minutes, and then we'll move on to the journey and the perfuming. So when you're around someone who's really, really draining you, what can you do? A couple things I want to teach you really quickly tonight that I think will help you a lot, especially as we're going through calcination, because this part of the alchemical process, and I'm going to say this again tomorrow, and I'm probably going to say it again next week, all the way through February, this is the hardest part of the entire alchemical process, you guys. After March, it's easier. And then by the end of the year, it's easy. Like, it's kind of like the payoff, the reward, okay? But this first phase can sometimes feel like you're literally pulling your own skin off, okay? This is not fun if you're really doing the work. And I'm not going to judge you. Like, some people are here, like, really digging in, and some people are here kind of playing more at the surface, and it's whatever you need it to be, right? The deeper you go right now, though, the bigger the shift you're going to see at the end of the year. There's a reward for the toil. You know what I mean? So I'll tell you, I'm going all the way in because I want the reward at the end, and I'm ready and I'm willing, and there's no better time. It's not like next year is going to be easier. Like I've kind of gotten myself out of all the bullshit stories of like, well, maybe I can wait till next year, or I don't have to do this right now. And it's an interesting question about generational curses. I personally don't believe in curses. And again, you may have a radically different experience. I don't actually believe in curses. I really don't. I don't, because I believe in the human capacity to transmute energy. I know that at any moment, if there's any energy in my line that needs to be transmuted, I have the capacity to do that right here, right now. And it's instantaneous. I don't need to hire somebody. I shouldn't have hired that woman to cut the cord. The reality is, you don't need me to do this work, right? It's nice to have somebody to support you. I take classes. I have 3 people I pay every month to learn from them and have somebody I can go to for support, but you don't need me, right? At the end of the day, all this work is stuff that you could do on your own pretty much by yourself because it's intuitive, right? So my thing is, it's really just about becoming aware more than anything. And then once you know who in your life, okay, because people could look at, my family and say, oh, those women are cursed, right? Like, everybody in my family before me got divorced, had all, like, lost children in utero. So you could have said to me, well, that's just your line, good luck, or whatever, right? But I think we can always overcome patterning, right? What do you do? So once you have your understanding of who in your life is draining you, most of us know we can't just avoid those relationships, and I don't even recommend that. There isn't a single person in my life that I avoid because they drain my energy. I just don't do that. I take it upon myself because I think it's my personal responsibility to know how to enter relationships and how to enter relational space from a healed place. So if I know I'm going to somebody's house, and there's somebody in particular I'm thinking about right now, and I go to their house sometimes, and it's a big ass drain. Okay, so A, I limit the amount of time. B, I do some energetic exercises. And C, I check in with myself. Am I feeling tired? Am I starting to yawn? That's always my sign, right? Am I starting to feel like my muscles are weak? Like, it literally will take energy out of my body. All of those things will start to happen, right? And so I pay attention to my body. I see myself kind of slump. I see myself get tired. I see myself start to yawn. It's like, it's time to go. But you can also do a couple of things. So first of all, you want to imagine an egg of light, like a big white glowing light, like that goes all the way around the perimeter of you, 12 inches above your head. That light's a good teacher, actually. 12 inches above your head, 12 inches below your feet, 12 inches side to side. And that is an egg of light that you literally step into. You can see it above you, below you, side to side. And you step into that egg of light before you walk into that place. That's one thing you can do. If you really want to double that up, you can imagine that the whole outside of the egg is covered in little mirrors, like a disco ball, which reflects their energy back to them, prevents penetration of the egg of light or sphere of light that you've stepped into. So that is a source of protection. It's also a way to shield your energy. You can carry shungite with you, which is an excellent stone for filtration. It also blocks electromagnetic frequencies, which can also result in you feeling drained. If you're in somebody's house who has a bunch of modems and they're a drain, that's like the shittiest way to spend an evening. So lots of bubbling yourself up, lots of shungite, which is helpful too. And then you can also, I will sometimes when I'm talking to people, just kind of place my hands over my solar plexus. Most people don't even notice it. You never see it because I don't do it with you. But I'll be sitting talking to somebody and just be like, oh, that's interesting. Kind of bring my knees up, or, sort of start to, because when you place your hands over your solar plexus, you are creating a shield to where you are corded. And it prevents that cord from being active in that moment. If you lay in bed at night and you get very anxious, does that ever happen to you? And you start overthinking things with someone, like playing back through your day, and you still feel like that energy is flowing and stuff? The easiest way to get back to sleep is to put your hands over your solar plexus. Why your solar plexus? This is where we cord. This is where we cord. Does that make sense? Try it. Feels really good. There's something really comforting about putting your hands over your solar plexus, right? Cover belly button. Yeah. You'll find yourself getting into a habit of it. Sometimes people put their hands over their, I'm not good at that. I don't like over their kind of thing, but that's covering your heart. You don't cord from your heart, you cord from your solar plexus. By the way, this is why so many empaths carry their weight right here, and it's why so many empaths have IBS and an irritable bowel, indigestion, diarrhea, leaky gut, because empaths don't know how to do this. So everything comes in, everything goes out, and it's just like this cesspool. So that's why I was saying you actually can lose weight from starting to record, because it just brings you into an awareness of like, I don't need that, right? Doesn't it feel good? It's making you sleepy. So yeah, that's what I was just talking about, Randy Lee. It absolutely, at least in my experience, it relates to digestion. And don't tell me you haven't had this experience, right? Where you're interacting with somebody and it's starting to upset you, and it's like you almost feel like you got kicked here. Have you ever had that experience? And it's like you just know, it's like, no, this is not good, and it feels very protective, right? So if you're heavy through the midsection, if you have IBS, Crohn's, irritable bowel disease, leaky gut, what's the other one with where food gets stuck? My mom has it. What's it called? I can't remember, but you guys know what it is, where the food gets stuck in the little pockets. All that stuff is you not managing the energetic boundaries, and it resolves on its own, usually, when you learn how to put some distance between there. Does that make sense? So this, at night, is honestly like your BFF. You could fall asleep just like that. Feels good. Try it. Put your shungite plate over your solar plexus. Just take. Oh yeah, diverticulitis. That's the one. Diverticulitis is an extreme case of this, in my opinion, because now the energy is actually there and blocking, right? Like now you've got something to think about, right? Do you feel it? Feels nice, doesn't it? It's very comforting. And then when you take it away, it's like, no, I want that back. So yeah, poop problems are energy problems, but any Ayurvedic practitioner would tell you that. It's really true. Okay, now we're going to make our perfume together, and then we're going to journey together, and then I will see what questions you have. And like I said, we will also have time for questions tomorrow night too, for whatever doesn't get addressed. There we go. I'm like, where are all my notes? Oh, this is something different. These really in-depth notes for me, but they're almost too much, so bear with me. Yeah, you're welcome. Shielding is really important, and there's so many different ways to do it. One of the oils we're working with tonight, I'm going to tell you, is the best shielding oil. This is vetiver. In India, they call vetiver ruchus, Ruhkhus. And it is such an incredible oil for filtering energy, and I'll tell you why. There's very few oils that we work with that are distilled root, right? If you think about most essential oils, it's plant leaves and flowers, and sometimes stems, right? Like bergamot, you'll get more into the stems and branches of the plant. That's where you get that kind of sharp citrus of bergamot. Neroli is more of the white flowers, like the orange blossoms, and then bergamot's more the stems and the leaves. But you don't often get the whole root of a plant. That's why I was saying I have a gorgeous vetiver plant. It's so healthy, but if I ever wanted to harvest it, I'd have to dig it up and kill it. I don't want to do that. But so I just grow it for fun. Watch, somebody will buy my house one day and dig that plant up and harvest all those harvest all those roots. But this is vetiver. So I want you to take just a moment to smell your vetiver. Let's come into a relationship with our vetiver. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. And I won't judge you, but honestly, I think it's one of the sexiest things I've ever smelled. In the U.S., I learned this in France. In the U.S., they don't put vetiver in women's fragrances because they think women don't like this. So they only put vetiver in men's colognes. Isn't that funny? So you'll find vetiver in some U.S. manufactured men's clothes, but you won't find it in women's perfumes. But outside the U.S., and especially in France, you'll find vetiver. Diptyque does a vetiver candle that is mind-blowingly good. My vetiver candle with rosewood at Sage Goddess is pretty good. We make it with pure vetiver, and there's a little bit of vetiver root sprinkled on top. If you hate it, you hate it. Like I said, I won't judge you. I've got BK saying I loathe it and Colin saying I love it. So you're right next to each other, which is pretty much how it goes for people. But I'll tell you something. This with a little patchouli, maybe a touch of sandalwood, drop of neroli in my bath water makes me purr. I'm thirsty, but I don't want to drink this because it's so bad. Oh, flat soda is so gross. Okay. I won't make that mistake again. So vetiver mostly comes from India. This is clary sage. So clary sage is a whole different creature. And it literally is known for clear sight. This is a great oil, clary sage, for clairvoyance. So the reason I put these together for you for this particular month is this is about filtering out energies in your field, and this is about getting clear about what energies those are. So this is a discernment blend, right? And we call this journey to authenticity because you figuring out who you authentically are is part of figuring out also what you're not. So what do I need to keep at arm's length, and or what do I need to keep at arm's length, and how do I do that? Are these two oils, right? So if you're missing an oil, let us know, and we'll make sure to send those off to you because your kit should have come with all three. That's really weird. The white lotus is a whole different animal. Did you smell the white lotus? Isn't it incredible? I think it's one of the most beautiful smells on the planet. White lotus with champaka. I haven't done it yet, but I'm dreaming of this, like, I don't know what I would call it, but there's a perfume that needs to be made with all these really expensive oils. This is rebirth, purification, and it's also about awakening and coming into a state of pure consciousness in your own mind and your own heart. So it's clarity in a way, like clary sage, but this is more a purification of the thoughts, a purification of the energy field, and a purification of the perspective. And so I thought that was a nice complement to the oil that can remove unwanted energy and that helps you have greater perspective on what to remove, right? It smells like sunshine. I know, it's magnificent, isn't it? Angel's wings. Now, what you have to decide, what do you like it with? The vetiver, it's interesting, it sweetens that vetiver quite a bit. Some of you may just want to do clary sage and white lotus because that is really beautiful. It's really heart. Clary sage is heart, white lotus is upper chakra, vetiver is root. Okay, so if you put all three of these together, you're going to open the upper chakras, the mid chakras, and the lower chakras, and have a really great balance, alignment, control your energy, right? Filter out the drains, all of that. If you just want to keep this super upper chakra, just do clary sage and white lotus. If you want to keep it lower chakra, don't put the white lotus in there. Save that for something else. Does that make sense? You love them all. Clary sage is great for acne. And I've got like one the size of Texas shaping up right here. I don't know if you can see it. It's one of those really big ones where like it's so big you can't even see it yet, but I can feel it. I still break out all the time. So you better believe a little bit of clary sage is going to go on there tonight before I go to bed. That's right. The three together are a chocolate smell. I want to smell chocolate. Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because that vetiver is kind of smoky, isn't it? Now, how do we make perfume? So we already cleared our bottle. I always blow my breath over it. I'm going to start with, because I am putting the white lotus in there, I'm going to start with the white lotus. I'll tell you why. In perfuming, in French perfuming, you always start with the oil that's going to disappear first. Clary sage is not going to disappear, and let me tell you something, vetiver ain't going anywhere. Okay? Vetiver's a nice, strong lady. She knows who she is. Is she not going to disappear? White lotus will disappear on you. And because I really want to smell that white lotus in the final product, I'm putting the whole banana in. You could add a lemmy, which would be beautiful. A lemmy would be a really nice complement to all of it. The kit just had the clary sage, vetiver, and the white lotus, but you could add that. Now the next least powerful oil is clary sage. Okay? We have a blue light for cystic acne. Can I refer somebody to you? I have a colleague in the crystal world who's struggling. If that's okay, let me know. You don't have to tell me now, but I'll refer her to you later. Or maybe you can help her find somebody where she lives. Okay. So I'm adding just a little bit of clary sage there. I'm going to kind of toss it around. I only added in about half of it because I can still smell the white lotus, but I'll tell you, if I added any more clary sage, I would not be able to smell the white lotus. It would disappear. You don't want to shake your oils, but it's nice just to turn them around, and then I like to apply it to the skin to really get a sense of what's happening here, because sometimes you'll smell it in the bottle and you'll think, but then, oh, I don't know. Namaste, Nancy, I don't measure anything. I'm Greek. A little bit. So this kit is a little extra kit that you can get. You don't have to have it. It's called the perfuming kit, or the journey kit for each month. So it's kind of nice because some people don't get the regular tools, but they want a little kit, and it's an affordable kit. So for next month, if you want it, you can grab it. Oh, it's beautiful. So I wasn't sure. In the bottle, it smelled just like clary sage, but on my skin, it's forward. The white lotus comes forward when I put it on the body. Did you smell it? Woo! It is true on the skin. Okay. Rub that on your pants. That's what I do. Then all my clothes smell like perfume. Okay, the last oil is vetiver, and I'm going to tell you, don't ruin it. This can become just a straight up vetiver perfume really fast. Okay, literally, I'm not putting much because this will go the wrong way real fast. And look how thick vetiver is. It's like 1 drop, 2 drops. I'm going to do 3. Ready? That's it. But I am going to put the rest on my skin and on my pants. I know, it's scary, right? Oh, I love it so much. You know why I think I love vetiver so much? Because I grew up in San Bernardino. I don't know if you know where that is. And when you read my paper, you'll understand my crucible paper, which I'll have ready for you next week. I grew up in San Bernardino, and we had wildfires every summer. And the smell is like my childhood, because everything always smelled burned. Okay, now, let me smell the whole blend, the whole concoction on my skin. Ah, that lotus is there. I didn't ruin it. Oh, it's so good. Yeah, that's real good. Is that your hood? Yeah, so I grew up in the 909 until I was almost 7 years old, and we just had wildfires every summer. So this smell of like things burning is very familiar to me. And then my parents' restaurant burned down when I was 17. And so I lived through that whole burning thing again. So it's just a smell that reminds me of being young. Okay. It needed a little bit more. Does it smell like fires? Yeah. Did you overdo it with the vetiver? It's okay. And one of the things you can do is you can always rescue this blend if you have at home any florals. A neroli would help this. A jasmine. If you overdo it on the vetiver, jasmine will pull it out. Lavender will pull it out. Rose will pull it out. What else am I thinking would be good for that? I mean, almost any floral will pull it out because you got to balance it between the head notes, and the heart notes, and then to pull that base note out. Woo. My vetiver patchouli neroli bath blend would be, I think I said patchouli, vetiver, neroli. Did I say jasmine? I might have said jasmine. I don't remember. Okay, let me smell it one more time. It's real good. Okay, so once your blend is right, then you can add your carrier oil because then you're going to dilute. You never want to put your carrier oil in first because you don't know what you're blending. So in French perfuming, we blend our essential oils and then we add our carrier oils afterward. I'm going to take this little, I don't like the little stoppers. I know it prevents things from leaking, but they drive me up the flippin' wall. And then I never have scissors to get them out. There we go. Okay. So, because I don't want to take your time pouring drop by drop. And I'm going to fill mine about 2/3 of the way because I don't want to over dilute it. But this is working beautifully. I like to turn it 3 times. Look at that. There's some alchemy happening in there. Isn't that beautiful? You can kind of see the oils dancing together. And that, my friends, is authenticity. But it's also a really good filtering blend. And it's good if you have people in your life who don't know how to manage their energy very well. Yeah, you did get a burner in your tools. So what I will tell you is, now I'm not going to do it because my burner has gold in it, perfume, and I don't want to. Gold perfume is very precious. I don't have any more gold perfume in my entire house other than what's in my diffuser. So I'm very careful with this because it's pretty much my favorite smell. But when you're done burning down all of your gold, then you can fill this, the little reservoir, with the rest of this perfume and diffuse this in your space. What a great blend to diffuse, right? Okay, so as we do, I'm going to take a little bit of this on my third eye for what I know, a little bit of my wrist for what I do, and a little bit of my ankles for where I go. Just shaved my legs today, I'm very proud to tell you. Don't do that every day. So that's always exciting when that happens. I know it's weird, but it's just kind of what it is. Okay. Now, I'm glad you guys like it. We're trying to bring gold perfume back. I just don't know if we can. Trouble getting the ingredients. I'm having trouble getting vetiver out of Java because of COVID. The distilleries are closed. I mean, it's just like, this thing has been such a strange time, I have to tell you. Okay, so now we're going to journey a little bit together. I'm doing this as a visual. I'm a visual learner, okay? This is a little pouch that my friend Barbara made me. It's just so cool for holding tarot cards or whatever you've got in your collection. But I thought it'd be fun to bring to you tonight because you guys are so funny. Here's what I want you to do before we start. I want you to imagine putting in here, I'm not personally taking it, but I want you to imagine putting in here all your titles, just for tonight. Isn't that cute? She's amazing, Barbara. She makes me clothes, she made me an altar cloth. She's just one of my favorite artists. She truly is. Isn't that cute? I literally want you to imagine putting in there all your titles. Mom, wife, partner, boyfriend, lover, employee of the month, whatever has stuck for you, friend, boss, priestess, because even those titles become heavy to carry around sometimes, right? Can you put it all in here? Can we all go in here together? You're proud of your titles, but you know what? It feels real good to put them in the box too. I'll give them back to you at the end, right? Put them all in here. Come on, I got it. For tonight, you're not mom. You're not partner. You're not employee. You're not sister, right? Give me the lawyer stuff. Get in here, lawyer. I'll put my doctor self in there. We can go for a ride together, right? Mm-hmm. I would also like to put in here victim. Some of us have enjoyed that title before. Victim. Patient, right? With health problems. Oh, that goes in here, right? I got a big bag. Okay, anything else you want to put in here? Dog mom, CEO, victim, crybaby, crazy person, codependent, addict. I don't know. I'll take whatever you got. Warrior. Are you the strong one? Oh, she's the strong one. Oops, that goes in there. I don't want to have to be that all the time. Instigator, right? Put it in my bag. Hermit, survivor, enabler, people pleaser, right? Coworker. Okay, you ready? Yeah, I'll take crazy person. Anything crazy, put that in here. Loony, nutty, off her rocker, out of his mind. Immigrant, drama queen, too sensitive, empath, healer, perfectionist, overthinker, right? Savior. Okay, ready? I'm closing it up. I'll give it back to you later. Feels good to give it to somebody, doesn't it? I'll hold it for you right here. That's right. That's right, and it is so good. That's right. You're not those things. I mean, you are, but you're also all the other things that aren't those things. Woo. Not fun? Just let me stretch my legs a little bit. I've been sitting all day and they're starting to get a little tight. Okay. So, can I burn yours? Those titles help us sometimes, we worked hard for some of those, but other times they really hold us back and keep us in tight skin that doesn't fit anymore. I find that to be true. A nice deep breath there. So we want to call in all of our guides and guardians tonight to hold and anchor the 4 directions with us. Calling in the guides and the guardians. The east, opening that doorway to a new perspective tonight, to bring clarity and consciousness, connection, across the miles, across space and time, across continents and oceans. We welcome them. And to the guides and the guardians of the South, we welcome them in for creativity and inspiration and transformation, opening that fire gateway in the South. And to the guides and the guardians of the West, opening up that water gateway. And I want you now to become more consciously aware of your solar plexus, right? Really feeling that energy center, because again, so much of the energy we're working with tonight sits here So notice if there's any discomfort, kind of like rock back and forth, open the energy center. You can do some, if you have mobility to be able to like roll the solar plexus, that can help too, to kind of move that energy. And we thank the guides and the guardians of the West for emotional purification and balance, healing and release. And then in the North, we welcome in the guides and the guardians of the North to help center, protect, nurture us, keep us grounded and safe. And then beyond this horizontal axis of energy, we have a vertical axis of energy, right? Everything is multidimensional. So we're on this horizontal plane with the east and the south and the west and the north. But then on this vertical axis, we have the upper realms, right? The upper chakras, the soul star chakra, the Akash, the dimensions above that soul star gateway. And then we have the middle realm, which is where we all are now gathering. It's this earth that we inhabit together. And then we have the lower world, which is the entire world beneath our feet, which is all of the bones, it's all of the minerals and crystals, it's the entire, and some of us believe there are civilizations that live inside of our planet, right? So all of that middle earth activity, all of the ley lines and vortex points of the planet also. So we want to honor and acknowledge the guides and the guardians of this vertical axis too, of the upper realms, the middle realms, and the lower realms. Feeling your energy get anchored in beneath your feet. And I want you to visualize those two. It's hard to describe to you, but if you can start to visualize that horizontal realm of energy is always spinning, right? And then this vertical line of energy is always rotating too. And so it's like this dance that these two realms of energy are doing around you all the time. And so when you create that bubble of light around you, you're really activating that horizontal axis and that vertical axis at the same time. That's what makes a dome of energy around you. And we give thanks to the guides and the guardians of the vertical axis for holding the upper, middle, and lower realms with us tonight. That white lotus is so strong, I can really smell it. It's so good. Just want that everywhere. Okay. Now, I'm going to start by doing just a few minutes of a lower chakra sound bath. You can lay down for this part or you can stay seated for this part. And this is designed just to help you raise energy from the root and the sacral to the solar plexus. So what we're doing now, if you want to visualize it, is we're gathering up energy at the root chakra, which is at your perineum, right at the base of your spine. And then we're also gathering up energy between the ovaries and testes at the sacral chakra. And when we raise that energy, it's like Kundalini, it starts to build and it moves toward the solar plexus. And that's where we're going to do our cord narrowing exercise. I'm glad you guys are here tonight. Okay. Just taking a nice deep breath there. So when we start to open and activate the root chakra, this is energy that takes you back to the very earliest years of your life. When you were first learning how to interact with other humans, what energy was, you didn't know what it was called, but your soul understood what energy was. Bring in the energy of the sacral chakra. We extend that energy line and we move into the chakra that formed really between the this also activates how you know what it's like to be in right relationship with another human being on a good, intimate, physical level. But we're stirring up some energy tonight from the earliest parts of your childhood. When that I am was being formed. So I'm going to go quiet now and just let you enjoy for a few minutes here. about 2 feet from the speaker. Sometimes it does help if you have an earpiece too. I'm going to play just for another minute. I'll pull them back just a little bit. I can't get too much further away from my speaker or you won't be able to hear me. But you might want to put in some earphones, which helps you to distinguish it too. But try to allow yourself to receive it because the frequency is really what's important. It'll help you drop into your journey, and headphones are really helpful. I'll also play just a little bit more quietly for you too. And you can give me feedback if the lighter playing is a little bit easier on your ears. I would love to know. Can you still feel it? Can you still feel it? Is it better? These bowls start playing really loud if I'm not careful, so. Okay, good. go for just another minute or two here. Just close your eyes. A lot cleaner that second time. That was nice. I'm glad that you could feel it too. Okay. Now, I want you to take your knife or your wand or whatever tool you are working with tonight. Whatever you have is perfect. You really can work with a nice single term wand, or if you have a Vogel, you can work with that. These are the hematite ones from the shop today. You can work with that and kind of use that as your tool. If you're going to use a Vogel, I would recommend that you use it holding the wider end facing away from you and the more narrow end towards you, so that, because the wider end can gather more energy, and we're going to be narrowing some energies around you. We're really going to be focusing on the solar plexus tonight because we're going to be narrowing cords. And in my experience, there's no karmic consequences to narrowing a cord. There's only a karmic consequence to cutting a cord, which is why I don't do it. Oh, did you really? Oh, that's so wonderful. I'm so happy to hear that. Okay. I'm glad you're channeling. So this, what I want you to do is I want you to see if it works for you. This works for me. When I need to know what cords to cut, I take my non-writing hand, which is my left hand for me, and I place it over my solar plexus. And I ask the question, what cords need to be narrowed? And I usually go with my first intuitive hit. Did someone come to mind of a cord that needs to be narrowed? You might get like a picture of them in your mind, or maybe you know what relationship this is, right? This is a friendship that, you know, has been causing you some grief and some heartache, or this is an old cord that you've known needs to be narrowed for a long time. But if you don't know, if you're like, I really don't know what I need to narrow, ask with your hand over, your non-dominant hand over your solar plexus, and then you'll usually get a hit about which cord needs to be narrowed. It's interesting, right? So yeah, so if you're feeling some discomfort over your solar plexus, put your hand there. Take some of the oil that we just blended and rub a little bit on your belly too. It's good for you. You can take a little bit on your finger and stick it in your belly button. If you've been with me for for Soul Shift for a while, we actually put oil in our belly buttons once. Do you remember that? It's actually a really great way to work with plant medicine, is putting it in your belly button, so you can put a little oil in there, and that'll start to soften you up a little bit. Okay, so what we're going to do is I want you to visualize that cord where it's attached. I've got one I'm going to work on. You've got one you're going to work on. I want you to visualize where that cord is attached. Most of the time you're going to get the visual is that it's coming through your solar plexus, but sometimes you'll see it like on the right side of your hip, or you'll see it attaching through, I don't know, your lower back, right? So try to discern, close your eyes, and I'm going to show you the movement, but I'm going to drum while you do it. So the movement is, once you've established where the cord is connected, okay, I want you to take this athame or wand or whatever you're using. I want you to visualize the cord, and I want you to begin smoothing it first of all. Now I do this in a clockwise motion around the cord. So I start at the top of the cord, like let's pretend this is the cord. I smooth and smooth and smooth and smooth and smooth. I'm going clockwise around it. And I start to visualize making a more narrow pathway for that energy to run. Remember that cords are just conduits of energy. And the more narrow it is, the less energy reaches you. Okay? So if you have a big, thick cord, it really helps to narrow it. That person will still be able to reach you. There's no karmic energy there. You're just offering less energy to that cord. And what this allows you to do is then go into other cords and say, I want to blow that cord up. I'm in a new relationship. I want to fuel more energy there, or I want to give more to my kids, or I want to really open my cord to my partner. The opposite is also true. You can go in and you can actually visualize, you can call energy into the cord. You can expand the cord. You can push the cord out. You can play with the dimension of your cords too. And this can be an emotion too, because we have cords to emotions. This can be places. You can have cords to a place, like where you grew up, for example. You might still have a cord to a house that you grew up in that you don't want to have anymore. You want to narrow that, right? Does that make sense? It's whittling it. And that's what I was just talking about. You can also widen a cord. So let's say you're in a new relationship and you feel like you're not sending enough energy to that new relationship. You can go into that cord and set the intention tonight and use your tool to actually open it so that the channel is wider, right? So you can actually open a cord. That's right. And you'll know when I start drumming, once you start to sense the cord and you start to make decisions about whether you're narrowing or expanding it. And again, I like to use a tool to do this, but you can do it with visualization too. And you can also do it with your hands. So you can start to narrow the cord and bring the energy in and narrow it, whittle it with your hand, and bring it in and whittle it down and bring it in, and you can actually feel the tightening and the compression of the cord as you do it. And that's how you'll know. The other thing I'll tell you really quick before I start drumming, and we're only going to do this for about 5 minutes, but it's all you need. Don't be surprised if you're narrowing a cord tonight to someone and they call you. People know when you cut or narrow cords. So you might get a call going, I was just thinking about you today. And you might be like, well, that's interesting. Yeah, you can pre-cord into a new relationship. It's uncommon though. It happens sometimes with soulmates that you pre-cord before they come into your life. So find that cord. Find where it's tethering to you. It's a great question. Whoever came into your mind needs to be addressed. Doesn't matter whether you've talked to them today or this year or not in 10 years or 20 years. Cords last until we're done with the people and the experience and the relationship and the energy. So find those cords you want to work on. It helps these people not get your goat. You know what I mean? Can't get to you quite as much once you narrow. Less access. Less of an intense flow of energy. It's okay if it's your spouse. You're not closing the line. But there have been times for me in relationships, all kinds of relationships, parental relationships, romantic relationships, where I needed to tighten up. You can always go back and loosen. It's about the flow of energy to you. And this is your sovereignty. You decide. You're the only one who can manage the energy flow. And this is something you can do. Because a lot of times we feel victim, right? You can narrow multiple cords tonight. Narrow them down. Narrow down, open up. Great Spirit, Spirit guides, ancestors, see us tonight as we do this sacred work. We invite you in to support us, to help us with this work on our behalf. We aren't removing connections, we aren't cutting cords. We're just deciding the flow of energy, making sovereign choices for our well-being. Stripping away what isn't us, what isn't serving us. Names and titles and old relationships and wounding patterns. Tonight you're going to decide what you say yes to, what you welcome back in. Who are you? And who aren't you? And I love it. Scan your body. Take a look right now. What needs to be narrowed? What needs to be widened or expanded? Spirit guides, if you want to, give them permission tonight to work on your behalf. If you do this, I promise you, something's been bothering you. It won't bother you as much. It's almost like you forget to think about it once the cord gets narrow. Right? Make it thin. It's okay. You still got energy flow there. I wish I had known the difference. But you do. Narrow the cord to your wounds, right? To your abandonment, to your health challenges. You're going to get good at this. Then you'll be able to do it spontaneously. You may have to narrow some cords with past lives. We give thanks for our capacity to design energy flow. Calling in more of what works, narrowing the passageway for what doesn't work, what isn't authentic to you. So you got to remember, every emotion, every relationship, every experience is a chord, because anytime energy is flowing between you and a thought or a vibration or a space or a person or a relationship, I know the light's a little weird, you have a chord. So if you have a chord, you can narrow it, you can expand it, you can cut it. If you want to cut a chord, I won't stand in your way, but it's just not work I do. So, but if you feel called to cut one tonight, that's okay. If you feel called to leave them all alone, that's okay too. What I like for you to learn is that you have options. You aren't just stuck. If you feel like people are just draining from you all the time, you're not just here to be drained, right? You have options, and there's not unkind to narrow a chord. It's quite beautiful to expand a chord when you want to, but it puts you a little bit in the driver's seat, and I like the idea that you have tools in your toolkit that you can use at any time. And I've literally sometimes narrowed it while I'm talking to somebody. I can feel like too much energy going out, and I can just feel myself like contracting on it, and that's okay, right? Because I can always reestablish the width of that chord later. It's just very hard to go back once you've cut. It's very, very difficult. You have options. Oh yeah, it's very common to feel kind of cold. It's common to feel really hot too. A lot of temperature fluctuation when you're running energy in any kind of ceremony. Some people bring blankets to ceremony. Like when I used to travel and do ceremony and go to different groups, people would always have blankets and kind of be huddled around. I tend to run really hot in ceremony, which is why I always have a tank top on, because I just get really hot, and if I have more clothing on, I'll sweat. So it just depends. Like, you'll learn for yourself. If you run cold or you run hot, you'll kind of learn your way, right? Okay, so I'm going to close our circle and release our guides and guardians. Now you know what this tool is for. And it really is a powerhouse tool for cutting. Now, this tool can also be used to open and close circles, right? It can be used to draw a circle around you on the floor, like when you're reading tarot cards. Everybody's okay. I need to be a little less enthusiastic about that, but you can, sorry about that, but you can put it on the floor around you when you're reading your tarot cards and bring that around. But make sure you always, if you open a circle, you got to close a circle, right? You don't want to leave a circle open when you're done. Is your nose running? My nose has been running too, but I have allergies, so, because it's been really windy here. Okay. Did you narrow all your chords? Okay. So I'm going to open our circle and release our guides and guardians, and then I'm going to hang with you for another 10 minutes or so just to answer any questions that you have. And then those of you, because we're at the 2-hour mark now, so those of you who need to go, want to go, will be more than welcome to do that in just a minute, and I'll stay with those of you who'd like to see the after show. So I'm starting to call it. So I want to thank and release our guides and guardians tonight. Thank you for helping us become more aware of energy, how it's flowing, where it's flowing, what the diameter of the cord is, and what we can do to address and modify. So I want to thank and release the guides and the guardians of the lower world, middle world, and upper world first, that vertical gateway. Thanking and releasing the guides and the guardians of the bone and mineral kingdoms, the guides and the guardians of the middle world, and the guides and the guardians of the upper world, the Akashic chamber, higher dimensions, the angelic dimensions. We give thanks for your presence and your support tonight. We release you with gratitude. And to the guides and the guardians of the north, thank you for being a steady and patient presence with us, keeping us safe and protected and grounded in all ways. We thank you and release you with gratitude. And to the guides and the guardians of the west, we thank you for the healing and the cleansing and the purification that tonight's work brings, by narrowing those cords and deciding on the energy flow that we receive. We give thanks for healing already on its way and release you with gratitude. And to the guides and the guardians of the south, thank you for helping us burn through tonight what isn't us, so we can start to assess our relationships accurately and come into greater alignment with our highest good. We release you with gratitude. And to the guides and the guardians of the east, we thank you for clarity, for wisdom, insight, information, perspective shift that happens when we start to look at energy this way. It's going to change how you interact with people when you first meet them too. What's the cord? Where did it sit? What's it like? We give thanks for the many ways this information will bless us and shift our perspective. Release you with gratitude. And now, you want it back? Anything you gave me, I will return to you now. Anything you want back. If there's anything you don't want back, you can leave it there. Some of you may not want it all back, right? We can leave some of those titles: crazy person, victim, sad person, unhealthy person, whatever. We can leave these in there maybe, but if you have a couple you left, I'd like to return them to you if you were feeling called. So take what you want, but be mindful what you're choosing, right? I put all my labels in there for a minute. I'm going to pull mom back out. I'm going to pull wife back out. I'm going to pull teacher back out. I'm going to pull doctor back out. I'm going to, But there are some that went in there that I don't want back. Right? Normal person. I'm not really looking for that one back. Right? Dramatic person. Too sensitive person. Too much person. Too needy person. I don't want any of that back. Can I take care of the rest? So what I'm going to do... Ready? With the smoke. Oh, that felt good. It's all in there, baby. That's right. I've got you. Did you forget about him? That's the secret, you guys. If you forgot about them, then our work together tonight is complete. Do you know that the goal of most really intense spiritual work, which includes plant ceremony and all of that, the goal of all of that is to unhinge you from everything that you think you are and everything that you think you own and everything that you think you know, so that you can find out who you really are. But sometimes you got to set all that stuff in a basket, because it's too easy just to go to those as your core identity. But the essence of who you are is so much older and deeper and wiser and independent of all of that. These are constructed identities, which are helpful. They get us through life and they help us to introduce ourselves to other people. But at the end of the day, None of it's necessary, and you won't be taking any of it with you. These are just here now things, you know? It's pretty amazing when you think about it, right? Mm-hmm. You're just you, and you're absolutely beautiful and magnificent and intended and perfect. There's nothing to fix about you or to add on to you, or you're perfect as you are, without your name or your letters after your name or your whatever all the small people around you call you. You're so amazing beyond that, right? Woo! Did your person just text you? That's how you know, baby. That's how you know you did some energy work tonight. And I'm very proud of you, too. All right, so if anybody would like to sign off or needs to sign off, I want to tell you thank you for being here. I want to ring my bell and tell you that I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. And I'm anticipating no technological issues, because I'm just setting that intention. I'm clearing that cord. I'm narrowing my cord to technology. Melissa's wearing her hearing aids and can hear me for the first time, and she wants me to say her name. Melissa! Oh, I'm so happy that you're able to hear me tonight, Melissa. Melissa, I'll sing you a shitty song because you can hear me. Woo! Now that is worthy of some celebration. Melissa! She probably regrets asking me to say her name now, but that's okay. My songs are not really gifts, but to people, but I may just break out at some point in a few minutes and go, Melissa! That's so good. Woo! Love it. Love it. Those are the moments that we live for. Thank you for that. Melissa! Okay. Yay! She hears me. I love you, girl. And I'm so glad you can hear me. Oh my gosh. I hope you enjoyed class tonight. I probably really blew it with the bowls for you, huh? It probably kind of sucked for you. I hope it didn't suck too much. Melissa! That's so good. Okay. What's on your mind? How was it for you tonight? It's good stuff, right? So what I was going to tell you, the last little bit of tonight, and we can talk more about this tomorrow, the last little bit of tonight's content that I wanted to share with you is in alchemy, there's something known as the fifth element. Have you heard about this? It's called the quintessence, right? Quin is 5, right? So it's the fifth essence. It's the fifth element. And this goes by different names. You often hear of wood as being the fifth element in the Chinese methodology. It's known as qi, ki. It's qi in the Taoist alchemy. It's kundalini. It's the pneuma in Greek. Pneuma means spirit, right? And so what we're trying to do in the process of calcination, of narrowing these cords and really getting to the core of who you are, is figure out what that spirit element looks like for you. And it's hard to discern that. It's hard to discern your soul gifts or your psychic gifts or your purpose for being on this planet when you've got so much noise. Right? It's like, why am I here? Who am I? The easy answer to that question is, well, I'm here to be a mom. I'm a mom, right? But if we start to peel some of that stuff off, and if we start to narrow cords that aren't serving us, then we can get to this bigger question of like, why am I actually here? And what is that source of life within me? Not earth, not air, not fire, not water, but spirit. Where does that core essence of me live? And the idea for the alchemists was, if they could isolate this quintessence, that was actually what they used to create the Philosopher's Stone, which was the ultimate material that they could use to transform any metal to gold. So the process of alchemy was really just this endless quest to discover the quintessence. But for me, in spiritual alchemy, right? Yeah, the fifth element. In Wicca, they call it spirit, right, or ether. But for me, what I've come to realize in studying alchemy all these years is that I'm the quintessence, right? The I am is the quintessence. Absent wife, daughter, mother, teacher, all of that. Just the I am. The part of me that has no name, because I've had many names, right? That's the quintessence. So I hope that was helpful for you. I meant to share that with you earlier, and that was the only other thing I wanted to share with you tonight. Melissa! Poor Melissa. She's going to be laying in bed tonight going, oh, that lady really needs to take singing lessons. And she's right. Sort of like the God particle, yeah. There's a core. Is it Awen in Druidry? Thank you for that. Prana, Prana, is the name that the Vedas give to it, right? Which is the spiritual text where the chakras and yoga practice comes from. So they're all talking about the same thing. Ki, Chi, Prana, Awen, the quintessence, the pneuma in Greek, right? It's all the same material, and it's the it's the part of you that's never been created and won't ever be destroyed. But because we as humans don't really know what that is, I mean, we haven't seen it. So, and the truth is, you can't really see it, right? I mean, it's beyond your primary senses, which is why we call it an element that's beyond. We can see fire, we can see earth, we can see air, we can see wind. We can't necessarily see spirit. So it's the one element that requires our faith, right? It's so good. Yeah, Melissa made our night tonight, didn't she? I took too much white sage smoke. That's very interesting. You smell like a walking live flower. I love that so much. What happens to cords when you pass on? Do you still have them? It's a great question. I don't know that I have the answer for you, because it's like one of those big questions. But I believe we maintain our cords, and that's part of our soul contract, right? I think we agreed to come in and get corded to each other. Different people to different extents, right? There are some people who have very few cords. Really, I mean, and that's a conscious decision. People really just decide to limit the amount of interaction they have. We've courted a lot less this year during the pandemic, and I think to some extent that's causing some depression and anxiety. I talk to a lot of therapists, and that's what I'm hearing from my therapist friends is just, like most of my friends who are therapists are booked solid for the next 6 months. Like they just have no appointments because people are really discouraged. And I think sometimes courting is a great thing, right? Our ability to court and connect and synthesize energies and meld and merge and learn from each other and all of that it's not a bad thing to court. But I think we've courted less this year, right? I believe there's a court in the afterlife. I mean, Jess, you can probably speak to that, right? Like, I'm sure you feel that court doesn't really go anywhere. And the big courts, husband, wife, partner, long-term partner, right? Doesn't matter whether you have a title, husband or wife. It's about how long you've been with the person. And mother, father, and parent, child, those are big cords. I don't think they really go anywhere. I think we carry those cords, right? I do believe the soulmates have cords that always exist. I do. It's why you can still sense them sometimes, can't you? It's like, how do I still sense that person that I haven't seen in 20, 30 years, right? But you do. It's the cord, right? You can grow new cords. You can reestablish a cord that's been cut. Sibling cords are big, but they're not as big as parental cords because remember, you got to think like primary, secondary, tertiary relationships, right? So I think of primary relationships as being foundational relationships, long-term partners, mother, father. And then secondary relationships I see, and maybe parent-child. Secondary relationships I see being siblings, people who've been best friends for 30 years would be a secondary relationship. This is almost like a sibling relationship, right? Um, and then tertiary relationships, you know, and I would put us, you know, a lot of us, especially a lot of us who've been working together for a long time, in that secondary chord, right? A few more benefits and perks of membership, right? Tertiary relationships for me are more temporary relationships, in, out, you know what I mean? I would put employee relationships in that bucket, but like Alexis, I would consider a secondary relationship. I don't have the same relationship with all my employees. Some of them are newer, some of them have been with me forever, right? So I see like a Brooklyn, a Claire, and Alexis who've been working with me and for me for 5, 6, 7 years in a different bucket as I see somebody who just started. Nobody started that recently, but like, you know, if somebody started like 6 weeks ago, like she's more of a tertiary relationship, right? Because the chords are different. Yeah, your athame, I wouldn't just share this tool or leave it out and about on your coffee table. You know, some of your tools, in my opinion, should be a little bit more private. Doesn't mean nobody can touch them ever, but it just means they're not really where prying eyes and prying fingers go. My vocals fall into that category. This would fall into that category. Wands that I do big body work with, I really move energy. I've got a green kyanite wand that Dave loves. I'm really able to move energy with that wand. Like when energy's stuck and it's painful. So like those kind of tools I don't leave out and about, whereas like this is just always sitting here on my altar, and it always was at the office too. So a lot of people have touched this, but not many people are going to touch that. A little bit different, you know. Can you cord to someone you've never met? I think so. I mean, like that you've never encountered it before, or are you talking like online relationships? I have big cords to people I've never met in online relationships. But if you're talking about somebody that you've never encountered before, like even online, it might be a slightly different question. It's a great question. Yeah, it's interesting. Colin said she had a coworker and she just clicked immediately, and she's sure we've been around together before. So sometimes you will, and sometimes you'll have a new relationships where it's like, that cord's kind of thick. You know, like what's going on there? And it might be good to explore that and see. Because I've had that too, where you just click with somebody and it's like, now you're second level, right? I don't think you have to cleanse your tools all the time. I differ from some metaphysical teachers in that way. I used to be a stickler for cleansing tools until I came across one teacher who really shifted my paradigm on this. And her view, which to some extent I still share, is you don't really need to cleanse your tools at all. Crystals are incredibly intelligent, and they activate, maintain their own frequency at all times. So her view was they're self-sustaining crystals. So she also didn't believe in charging your crystals. She was like, they're already charged. Like, what are you as a human going to do to this thing that has its own intelligence? Like, are you smarter than it? And I have to tell you, like, just hearing that perspective was like, it's interesting, right? Yeah. Good night if you're going. Great to see you tonight, by the way. How do you make cords thicker with online relationships? Same way you do with in-person relationships, intimacy. But, I mean, for me personally, I don't have to ever meet someone in person to have intimacy with them. Because I can establish intimacy without having a physical relationship. But some people feel like intimacy only comes from, I can see you, I can hug you, I can touch you, I can, you know what I mean? Depends on how you perceive it. How do you know where to find a certain chord? You can use your pendulum is one great thing to do. And you know how I feel about pendulums. Mine is in the other room, of course. But you can run your pendulum. You should always have a pendulum. Most of you do, because we've given you one in tools and stuff over the years. So you've got to have a pendulum in your collection. Doesn't matter who you get it from or what stone it is, but you just got to have a pendulum. You got to have one that works for you. But you can run that through your auric field, and it'll tell you where you have a chord. So you can say, okay, I want to look at my chord to my brother. Where's that chord? And run it on the vertical axis down your body, and then run it on the horizontal axis. You'll find the chord. Yeah. Aw, of course we see you, Summer. It's great that you're here. Yeah, it's very helpful. So it depends. Now, when I've done really big work on people, like intense hard work on people, and I've done intense hard work on people, I've cleaned my tools afterward. But you'll know. You know what I mean? It's not like tonight this wasn't intense. I don't need to clean anything. Yeah. I'm so glad. Is there such a thing as over cleansing or charging? I don't think so, because I think the crystals are intelligent. I really do. I mean, but that's kind of my worldview, you know. I think it's very pretentious for human beings to be like, I'm going to program this crystal and I'm going to cleanse this one and I'm going to activate this one, and it's like they're probably sitting there laughing, like, oh, please clean me or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, oh, wise human. I don't know. It's there's so many different perspectives on it. But if you want to cleanse your crystals, sage smoke is really good. Running water is really good. Just putting it under the sink. You could sit it in some salt. I like Himalayan salt for that. You can touch it with black kyanite. You can anoint it with clearing oils. Like your vetiver is really good for that. White sage oil, Palo Santo oil, eucalyptus oil, frankincense is great. Copaiba is good for that. Yeah. Have I ever seen the cord as I was thinning it? Sometimes. Oh yeah. If you release a contract, is that the same as cutting? I don't know. I've never released a contract because my view is when the contract's done, I will be released from it. In my experience, guys, the universe is real good at bringing people into my life and then ushering them right the hell out when we're done. I have seen the universe literally like drop people in my lap and then pick them up and boop. And I've just been like, okay, I guess I'm not friends with that person anymore. I mean, and not even really in bad ways. Just like all of a sudden they're just gone, you know? But if you learn to trust the process, then you don't hold on. You know, it's like, okay, well, that was fun while it lasted. And then they'll bring them right back. You know, it's like, oh, where'd you go, Joe Bob? Didn't see you there for a couple of months. Can a cord be attached in two places? I don't know, but probably. I haven't had that experience. My mom's cord to me is my biggest cord. My dad's is the second. Yeah. No, poof, bye. I mean, at some point, I think one of the, I'll leave you with this for tonight. I think there's a couple fundamental, principles in life, if you will, and or choices that we make. And the main choice I think you have to make is that you have to trust that there's a higher power and that it's intelligent and that it doesn't need your permission to act, right? I posted on my personal Facebook page yesterday. I made it public, because I like to post things that are public. I don't really post much that's private. What's private anymore? I mean, if you put it on Facebook, it's not private, right? So the idea that you put something on Facebook and it's private is like kind of a joke. I mean, in our private Facebook groups, I believe it's private, but your stuff on your personal page, like, I don't know, I think of that. My rule is when I put stuff on my personal page, I just assume it's going to be seen. I think that's a good way to operate with social media anyway. But, that's kind of how I move through my life. I trust that energy exists. I trust that it's intelligent. And I trust that everything around me is intended. So if I go through saying, well, I don't want to deal with that person and get her out of here and let's move that away and I don't want to talk about that anymore, and it's like, when I intervene, I make mistakes. When I trust, surrender, let go, lean back, I make good choices. So I've just noticed the less I lean in and try to architect this thing, try to organize this thing, or like figure it out, I just screw it up with my very human way of looking at the world. And that's with a lot of wisdom, but I'm still human, right? So I make mistakes. Are we able to control what kind of energy can flow to us through cords? Not necessarily. So this is why people go to the woman like I went to in San Diego and say, cut my cord, and she'll be very happy to do that. She still cuts cords, this woman. And I don't blame her. I mean, I didn't have to have her do it. I went to her to have that cord cut, and then she said, yes, I'll cut it. And then afterward I was like, oh shit. But that was my choice that I made, and it is people's professions. They are cord cutters. So it's, and again, I won't judge you if you cut cords. It's just for me, after that experience, I was like, I don't want to drive this bus. You know what I mean? If that person's in my life, I probably have something to learn. And I'd rather learn it than, because what happened was immediately I saw that the universe brought other things into my life to teach me the lessons I would have learned through that person. So you don't really escape the lesson. The universe is just like, oh, you didn't want to do it with Joe Bob? Okay, here's Jim Bob. And now Jim Bob's going to teach you this wonderful lesson that you thought you could avoid. And then the spirit guides sit back and go, And we're like, wait, where did Jim Bob come from? I don't want Jim Bob. Was that helpful? I know. All right, you guys. So if you have additional questions, hold on to them for tomorrow night because the second half of class tomorrow night is all Q&A. The first half is we're going to do a little flame and candle magic. I'm going to teach you everything I know about candle magic tomorrow night. Jim Bob comes in the place of Joe Bob. Did you know? Now you know. All right. Thank you, Alexis, for staying late. Thank all of you for staying too, if you did. And have a great rest of your evening. And I will look forward to seeing you guys in class tomorrow. So we have live readings one more time from 2 to 3:15-ish tomorrow. And then we have class again from 4 to 6. And then we have full moon Friday from 6 to 7. And then you can take a break from me for a couple days. I'll see you tomorrow.